ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकथामायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोन् श्रीयुतं कमलम् श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं स्वावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो भगवतो जगत्पते
गोपेश गोपिका राधा कान्ता नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि
हरिप्रिये आजकल्पतरुभ्यश्च वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं छात्रेषु
श्लोके भक्ति भक्ति नैष्टिकी
भवति नैष्टिकी वैरग्युत्तमा पश्यन्त्यात्मनिश्चात्मानं पश्यश्रुतहीतया।
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody in this group who have joined and are about to join, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1. We are on Chapter 2, which is the Divinity and Divine Service. And today the text is text 12, Prabhuji. So I hand over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Translation. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional services in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. You can read the purport, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Soni Mataji, kindly help me with the purport. It's a long one. So maybe you can read the first paragraph.
Yes,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The absolute truth is realized in full by the process of devotional service to the Lord Vasudeva, or the personality of Godhead, who is the full-fledged absolute truth. Brahman is his transcendental body effulgence, and Paramatma is his partial representation. As such, Brahman and Paramatma realization of the absolute truth is but a partial realization. There are 4 types of human beings: the karmis, the jnanis, the yogis, and the devotees. The karmis are materialistic, whereas the other 3 are transcendental. The first-class transcendentalists are the devotees who have realized the Supreme Person. The second-class transcendentalists are those who have partially realized the plenary portion of the Absolute Person. And the third-class transcendentalists are those who have barely realized the spiritual focus of the Absolute Person. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures, the Supreme Person is realized by devotional service, which is backed by full knowledge and detachment from material association. We have already discussed the point that devotional service is followed by knowledge and detachment from material association. As Brahman and Paramatma realization are imperfect realizations of the absolute truth, so the means of realizing Brahman and Paramatma, that is, the paths of Jnana and Yoga, are also imperfect means of realizing the absolute truth. Devotional service, which is based on the foreground of full knowledge, combined with the detachment from material association, and which is fixed by the oral reception of the Vedanta Shruti, is the only perfect method by which the seriously inquisitive student can realize the absolute truth. Devotional service is not therefore meant for the less intelligent class of the transcendentalists. There are 3 classes of devotees, namely first, second, and third class. The third class devotees, or the neophytes, who have no knowledge and are not detached from material association, but who are simply attracted by the preliminary process of worshipping the deity in the temple, are called material devotees. Material devotees are more attached to material benefit than transcendental profit. Therefore, one has to make definite progress from the position of material devotion service to the second class devotional position. In the second class position, the devotee can see 4 principles in the devotional line, namely the personality of Godhead, his devotees, the ignorant, and the envious. One has to raise himself at least to the stage of second class devotee and thus become eligible to know the absolute truth. Hare Krishna.
A third class devotee, therefore, has to receive the instructions of the devotional service from the authoritative sources of Bhagavata. The number 1 Bhagavata is established personality of devotee, and the other Bhagavatam is the message of Godhead. The third class devotee, therefore, has to go to the personality of devotee in order to learn the instructions of the devotional service. Such a personality of devotee is not a professional man who earns his livelihood by the business of Bhagavatam. Such a devotee must be representative of Sukadeva Goswami, like Sutta Goswami, and must preach the cult of devotional service for the all-around benefit of all people. A neophyte devotee has very little taste for hearing from the authorities. Such a neophyte devotee makes a show of hearing from the professional man to satisfy his senses. This sort of hearing and chanting has spoilt the whole thing, so one could be very careful about the faulty process. The holy messages of Godhead, as inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, are undoubtedly transcendental subjects, but even though they are so, such transcendental matters are not to be received from a professional man who spoils them as the serpent spoils milk simply by the touch of his tongue. A sincere devotee must, therefore, be prepared to hear the Vedic literature like the Upanishads, Vedanta, and other literature left by the precious authorities of Goswamis for the benefit of his progress. Without hearing such literature, one cannot make actual progress, and without hearing the following the instructions, the show of devotional service becomes worthless and therefore a sort of disturbance in the path of devotional service. Unless, therefore, devotional service is established on the principles of Shruti, Smriti, Purana, or Panchatattva authorities, the make show of devotional service should at once be rejected. An unauthorized devotee should never be recognized as a pure devotee. By assimilation of such messages from the Vedic literatures, one can see the all-pervading localized aspect of the personality of Godhead within his own self constantly. This is called Samadhi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Radhaji. So this verse is Tat Shadadana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyanti Atmani Chatmanam Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes the absolute truth by rendering devotional service of what he has heard from Vedanta Shruti. Now, before we go to this verse,
काटना के लिए आप कट जाते हैं, चॉप का भी यूज कर सकते हैं. चॉप स्पेशली तब यूज करते हैं जब आप छोटे छोटे पीसेस काटते हैं.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, sorry I have muted you by mistake. Kindly unmute. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have muted you by mistake. Kindly unmute.
okay, I am unmuted. Is it okay now?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay,
Sorry
we continue. Okay, so if you go to this verse, three words are very important. Jnana, Vairagya, Shruta, Grihitya. We should know these three terms nicely, then we can understand this word. Jnana means knowledge, and the basis of knowledge is to understand the difference between body and soul. Vairagya means to live a life without sense gratification. That is called Vairagya. And Shruta Grihitya means to hear from Vedanta Shruti. Now what you are hearing Bhagavatam is directly Vedanta Shruti. Vedanta Shruti means the commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And Shruti means spoken or explained by devotees. So in the purport, Sri Prabhupada is explaining that there are four kinds of people, by Krishna consciousness, Vasudeva, or Krishna can be realized in full. Now, if you go to Bhagavad Gita 7:19, then it says, after many, many births, one can come to realize that Vasudeva or Krishna is everything. So to come to that level, it is not easy, because one has to go beyond the level of Brahma and Paramatma. There are three realizations of the absolute truth: Brahma, Paramatma, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, which is already explained earlier. Vadanti tattvas tattva idam Yat Jnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan Iti Sabhyate. So the example of the sun, if all of you remember, we have done this example many, many times. There's the sunshine, there's a disk of the sun, and then the sun itself. Though sun is one, but it is realized in three different ways. So Brahma realization means understanding the external sunshine. Paramatma realization is like seeing the disk of the sun with our eyes. It looks very tiny. And Bhagavan realization means to actually come face to face with the sun. Since we can't come face to face, but the Vedic scriptures explain to you that even the sun has a demigod known as Surya Narayan, or is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. His name is Vivashwan. So three levels of understanding. Though the truth is one, but the understanding is three. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Now, if you go to Bhagavad Gita, the last chapter, Krishna says, it is only by devotional service you can know me as I am. So, if any one of the devotees knows the Sanskrit, please, you can share with us. The verse says that it is only by bhakti you can know me. Which verse is that one? Anybody likes to try? It's a popular verse.
Mana Bhakto.
No, that's not the one. In this verse, clear word is only by devotional service. And it is in the 18th chapter. Okay, so the verse is Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyash chashmi tattva tato mam tattvato gnatva vishate tad anantaram. I think it's 1854, either 54, 55. Krishna tells Arjuna, it is only by devotional service you can know me as I am. So if you want to know Bhagavan or you want to know Krishna, then you have to engage in devotional service, which begins by hearing and chanting the holy name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains that even in the humans, there are four kinds of humans: karmi, jnani, yogi, and devotees or bhaktas. Now, of which the first one, karmi, is a materialist. The rest three are accounted or counted among transcendentalists: jnani, yogi, and bhakta. Now, jnani means those who are still on a speculative platform. They have not still come to realize that Krishna is supreme. Yogi also were working very hard to understand or to see Paramatma within the heart. So they practice by going to a secluded place and trying to see the Lord in the heart through meditation. And when you say bhakta or a devotee, he is engaged in devotional service. Now, of all these three, jnani can understand Brahma feature, impersonal effulgence of Krishna. Yogi can see Krishna in the heart only as Vishnu form, Vishnu Murti. And Bhakta can see Krishna eye to eye if he is engaged in devotional service, as guaranteed by Krishna. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So, these are four types of beings. Karmi is not in the level of transcendentalists. Jnani, yogi, and bhakta is on the level of transcendentalists. And a jnani, if he is successful, then in the Bhagavad Gita it says, after many, many births, one can know me that I am the cause of everything. Me, Vasudeva, means Vasudeva is everything and cause of all causes. And such a person is very rare to know. I mean, very rare to come across. Does any devotee know this verse? 7th chapter, verse number 19. Madhurupa Mataji, you know the verse? After many, many births.
Yeah, I can read.
Bahunam Janmanamante.
Yes,
Yeah,
excellent. Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanamam Mam Prapadyati. Vasudevi Samramiti Mahatma Sudurlabha. After many, many words, one will realize that Vasudeva Krishna. Vasudeva Krishna is all in all. So anyway, that is when your gyan becomes mature, not before that. And yogi, if is perfect, then at the end of the 6th chapter it says, Yogi Rama Pisarvisham Matgatendriya Atmanam Shadavan Bhagate Vajate Yomam. In that verse, Krishna says, of all the yogis, the best yogis is one who is constantly meditating upon me. And the bhakta, from the very beginning, is very, very much on a high level. Srila Prabhupada explains in a lecture or in his talks that anyone who chants Hare Krishna regularly is the best of all persons. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was approached how to recognize a bhakta or a devotee or a Vaishnava, then he said that in the first meeting, he said that one who was given up bad association or false association is only associating with devotees. And the second approach, he says, anyone who's chanting the name of Krishna is a Vaishnava. And in the third meeting, he says, he's chanting Hare Krishna and he's preaching Hare Krishna. Means he's preaching Bhagavad Dharma. So 3 levels. So the basic level is anyone who's chanting regularly, he should be able to recognize as a Bhakta or a Vaishnava. And he should be respected. So these are the 4 categories. And as you go further, he says, of all these devotees, Bhakta, or what we call a devotee, is the best of all. Because he has realized Bhagavan, Ishvara Parma Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha Nadi Radhira Govinda, Sarvakarana Karanam. He is the best of all. Now, what happens when you do bhakti? If you go to 4th canto, Prithu Maharaj explains very nicely his instructions. As soon as one starts bhakti, then two things will automatically follow him or accompany him. One is jnana and the other is vairagya, which is there in the verse of today. The verse of today, it says, jnana vairagya yuktaya. Now you don't have to seek for it. It will automatically come to you. It's an offer Krishna is giving, that as soon as one practices devotional service, I will give him knowledge and I will also give him detachment, which means he will give up sense gratification. He'll use his sense in the service of Krishna. So I think by now everyone is clear with these 2 words, jnana and vairagya. The first step of jnana is to understand that I am not this body. The second step to understand jnana on the devotional platform is that I am the servitor of Krishna. Jivara Sarupai, Krishna Nityadas. And engage in the service of Krishna, and then you will understand Krishna. So in the Prithu Maharaj explanation, it says, after Gyan, you'll get Vigyan. Jnana means knowledge, Vigyan means science. Now, science of Krishna consciousness means you will understand your constitutional position, and then you'll also understand the constitution of the supremacy of Krishna as the original supreme personality of Godhead. That is called Vigyan. 2 different words, knowledge and science. So now one who understands this final realization, then that is called an advanced devotee. He has scientifically understood what is Krishna. And he has no doubts about the supremacy of Krishna. And his faith can never be shaken up in any course of his life. And he'll never give up his devotional activities, especially chanting Hare Krishna. He'll chant as much time available to him. Anyway, the perfect knowledge of the absolute truth is realized by jnana and vairagya. And this jnana and vairagya increases day by day by oral reception. As you hear Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam especially, then what happens? Your jnana will increase and your vairagya will also increase. For example, many devotees say that we heard it in the lecture, the class was very nice, but then I forgot. Well, that is not important, whether you remember or you don't remember. If you have heard it, it has touched your soul. And at the right time, it will open. And when that lecture is repeated, or one sentence is repeated, Even after 10 years, you remember, oh, I've heard this. This is the beauty of spiritual knowledge. I can give you an example of my own granddaughter. Yesterday, I was hearing Prabhupada, and this verse was spoken by Prabhupada, Sarvasya Chaham Hridishani Vishnu. And she was doing her homework in another room. Somehow or other she heard the verse. She came to the room and said, oh, Prabhupada is speaking Sarvasya Chaham. So it is so nice that she knows the verse and she heard Prabhupada. At once it clicked. I'll give you an example, which has happened just yesterday. In the same way, even in my own life, I remember I would never miss a class. And I was no good at speaking. I was a very shy person. If someone says you speak, I never speak. Now this is for many years, almost 12 to 14 years, I never spoke anything. But I had an interest in hearing. I've never missed a class, Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad Gita class. But now when I speak, everything comes in. Where does it come in? I don't know. So this is the beauty of scripture. If you hear attentively, that's why in this verse it says, Bhaktya Shru Shruta Grihitaya. Grihitya means well received. You have to receive through both the ears. And that is called Shravanam. Shravanam of Vedanta Shruti. Vedanta Shruti means either you read Vedanta Sutra directly, which is very difficult, not all that easy, because it is in the form of codes. The same Vedanta Sutra is presented by Sukadeva Goswami in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is narrated by Sutta Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya. And this same knowledge we can read by Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada speaking to us or reading to us in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because all these purports, Srila Prabhupada is backed up by all the line of disciplic succession, all those acharyas in the disciplic succession. So this is something which you have to treasure, hearing. So 3 words I made it clear: Jnana, Vairagya, and Shruti. Jnana means not to come to realize I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. Vairagya means no more sense gratification, but my senses should be used in the service of Krishna. Some devotees complain, I cannot give it up completely. Yes, you can't give it up completely at once. But a time comes in a due course you'll give it up, provided your devotional service is up. Srila Prabhupada is giving an example. If you switch off an electric fan, then the blades inside are still rotating, and slowly they'll come to stand still. So even if you are engaged in devotional service, don't think the thoughts of sense gratification will not come. They will come. But slowly, as your faith in Krishna increases by regular hearing and chanting the Mahamantra, the form, hearing about the form of the Lord, pastimes, qualities, and so on, then you'll get the strength to overcome this passion of your senses. Now, for long, senses have been contaminated. Our heart has been contaminated. That's why we find that early in the morning we read or we recite 6 Shastakam prayers. And the first prayer says, Cheto Darpan Majanam Bhava Bahadwagani Nirvapanam Shreya Khairva Chandrika, and so on. In this verse it says, chanting Hare Krishna, the Sankirtan movement, it means the cleansing of your heart. Cheto Darpan Marjanam. Heart is like a mirror, and as you clean and clean, it becomes shiny. Then you can see everything inside very clearly. But if the mirror of your heart is dirty, you may not see things as they are. So by regular chanting, your heart will become clear. That's why it's a necessity. In the age of Kali Yuga, really speaking, there's no other method to clean your heart other than chanting Hare Krishna. And this is a universal method or practice done since millions of years. People take up chanting of Hare Krishna. In this way, when your heart becomes cleansed, and as you hear about Krishna, then the faith will increase, and the faith will become so strong that you will become so clear. Even a third-class devotee can do it. here Sri Prabhupada in one paragraph is speaking about three classes of devotees. The third class is one who only has faith in the deity in the temple. He says, okay, Krishna is here in the Murti, in the temple. And the moment he walks out of the temple, he forgets about Krishna. He thinks Krishna is only in the temple. Now, this is a third class devotee, but he does not know that those who are serving Krishna, they also have Krishna in their hearts. That he doesn't know. But when he becomes a Madhyam or a second class devotee, he can realize this, that Krishna is in the temple, Krishna is in the heart of devotees, and he starts associating with those devotees. And he hears Srimad Bhagavatam, he chants Hare Krishna, and then he gets promoted to the first class, which is called an advanced devotee, Shuddha Bhakta. So in order to become a Shuddha Bhakta, you have to associate with devotees who are better than you, not of your class. Because if you associate devotees of your category, you may be speaking so many things which are not necessary, which Rupa Goswami calls it as prajalpa. Prajalpa means unnecessary talking. But you talk with devotees who are advanced, better than you. For example, you are a third class, then you hear from second class. If you're already second class, hear from the first class. Always look for a higher devotee. Because we all like to speak, we all like to discuss, but always discuss with devotees who are one step better than you. Anyway, that is off the subject. Now, to whom to hear from? You hear from those who are in parampara, those who are already engaged in devotional service, and those who have given up criticizing others, who are not envious of others. Hear from them, not from professional reciters. Sri Prabhupada condemns professional. In this particular first canto, in 2 verses, Sri Prabhupada says in the purports, we should not hear from the professional reciters, which is very common in India, very common. And people like to listen to those reciters because they present it in a very way which is like more or less an entertainment. But you cannot understand anything from there. You are not going to gain anything. And if you are going to get anything, if after hearing at least for 7 days or 10 days, you should be able to give up at least one bad habit, which people can't do. It remains the same. That's why Sri Prabhupada says, Bhagavatam has to be taken with the spirit of devotion by hearing daily, regular attendance. That's why it says, regularly attending Bhagavatam class. What is the result? All that anarthas which is there in your heart will be destroyed. Just like in the beginning, Shashri Prabhu recited this verse, Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagata sevya bhagavate utam shloke bhakti bhavati nashtiki. If you go to the translation, it says, by regular attendance on the Bhagavatam, by rendering service to a pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Almost means little left. And loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. That is why this verse is always recited before hearing, before you start the Bhagavatam class. So anyway, you have to hear not from professionals. Besides that, you have to hear Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra or the Bhagavatam is the same, no difference. It's very important and beneficial. Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. One will progress and he will receive so much benefit that he'll go further and further and further. But don't make it a show. You have to do it genuinely. You have to hear. It's not that you tell everyone, okay, you attend a class and you yourself don't attend a class. That is not good. You also have to attend the class, hear the class, so that you will benefit, others will benefit, and also ask questions. In the Bhagavatam class, you always raise your hand and ask a question to make things clear. Because in Bhakti Yoga, there will be thousands of questions. You'll find that in Bhagavad Gita, there are so many questions asked by Arjun. The very Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, the very first verse, it starts with a question. The Trashtra Vacha. It's a question. And later on, Arjun asked so many questions. And in this way, Bhagavatam also has so many questions. Bhagavatam is discussion between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit, Sutta Goswami and the sage of Naramesharanya. Then Maitreya Muni and Vidura, and Yudhishthira Maharaj and Narada. At least these are 4 conversations which you have to hear. Really, there are so many questions. And these questions are going to arise in your devotional service. Like one common question everybody asks, even myself, why do we have to chant daily? This is a typical question people ask. Why can't we chant just on the day of Ekadashi? Some people say, how if I chant only a few rounds a daily? Why you are telling us to chant so many? It's a typical question we get. And as you hear the answer, it will answer at least out of 100, 70 questions will be answered if you know the answer. So many questions are answered if you understand the importance of chanting the holy name of Krishna. So this is called hearing Bhagavatam daily. Now, as you go on, then you'll find that if you don't follow, especially even people who worship Krishna, if they don't do it after hearing the scriptures, their worship will not be proper. Narad Muni says, Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Panchratri ki vidhi vidhan, ahikati ki harir bhakti utpataiva kalpate. The meaning is, devotional service of worship, which is not as per Shruti, Smriti, Pancharatra, or Puranasa, will simply create a disturbance in society. And it is true. Those people who don't hear scriptures and still want to worship Krishna, their worship is not beneficial to himself or even to others. That's why Srila Prabhupada says, whoever enters into the altar should be a first-class Brahmin, at least a Brahmin, Brahmanically initiated devotee, who has faith in the scriptures, who is reciting and reading scriptures daily. That is why it is very important that we hear Bhagavatam daily. By hearing Bhagavatam, reading, hearing Bhagavad Gita will make us pure. Because as you read Bhagavatam, there is one very good effect you will get. I'll share my realization, and it is also, many devotees, all devotees agree, that when you read Bhagavatam, at some places you'll find that Bhagavatam is speaking about you. So the question will come, how come I am here? And we are all there. It's like if you go to buy some clothing in a fashion store, then there is a changing room. And if you go to the changing room, you put on your apparel, your cloth, then there's a mirror. Then the salesman will show you here, look what are you looking like. At that time, maybe you try to adjust yourself like this, and whether it's fitting you or it doesn't suit on you, you have a right to speak. So when you hear Bhagavatam, the effect is the same. It will speak about you. What kind of person are you? What kind of heart you are? What are misgivings in you? What are faults in you? All this will be revealed by Bhagavatam. That's why Bhagavatam is also compared to be like a mirror. It shows a picture of you. So when the picture comes in front of you, what will happen? You'll see yourself and you see all your faults and your good qualities. So what will be the immediate effect? Anybody likes to try? What will be the immediate effect if someone shows you all your faults? What is the immediate effect on you?
You'll get so angry.
Anger is one thing, but if you are a devotee, what will happen?
You'll be grateful. You'll thank him.
Grateful, and you'll be humbled. You'll humble yourself down to Krishna. And this humility is very useful because your chanting will increase, your politeness is increased, you'll no more speak any rough language, and you'll try to overcome all those faults by doing all the things necessary In this way, all your anarthas means misgivings. None of us can claim, even I cannot claim, that I don't have any bad angle or any bad side of mine. Everyone has. Someone is little, someone is more. So instead of Sri Prabhupada uses the finger like this, instead of pointing to others, the three are pointing towards you. Look towards you first. In this way, the Bhagavad Gita will go deep into you and try to dig out those anarthas, misgivings, and make your heart very pure. So I try to explain you in a very practical way. Just like, take the example of Arjuna. When he saw the universal form, what was the effect? Immediate effect on Arjuna? He got scared. What am I seeing? Is my grandfather Bhishma going to be eaten up like this? Is my guru going to be eaten up like this? Look at all those soldiers. When he saw this dreadful vision right in front of him, he was shaken up. Not just fear, he was literally shivering. Then to calm him down, Krishna had to show his original form. And this answers the question. Many people who are not from the Vedic culture, they say, why do you put these beautiful forms on the altar? Well, if Krishna is put in his time form or in a karma form, we'll be scared. That's why we see Krishna in a beautiful form. As soon as you see the beautiful form of Krishna, then the effect is, like in my hand, I have a very small Krishna. Can all of you see this Krishna? Now this Krishna, if you see, is holding a fruit with a cow behind. It's so attractive that it will attract your very soul inside. That's why this Krishna is realized only by devotional service and not by any end. That's why in the concluding words, Sri Prabhupada says, by assimilation of Vedic understanding, one can progress towards samadhi. Samadhi means completely fixed in Krishna consciousness. Oh, sorry, we have gone over the time, is it?
No, Prabhuji, we have still some time. We
Okay.
have 10,
Now,
10.
samadhi means to be fixed completely in Krishna consciousness. The word samadhi can be understood towards the end of the 5th chapter and in the 6th chapter. It says yam, niyam, dhyana, dharana, and so on. And the last one is samadhi. Now, samadhi means you cannot deviate your mind from Krishna. You will always remain fixed in Krishna. And Krishna is very, very close to us. Can anyone of us say, where is Krishna right now? Anybody likes to answer that question? Right now, he's with all of us. Where is he?
In our heart.
Yes, Madhurupa Madhu, thank you. He's there in the heart of everyone. And he responds. If you are shanta, shanta means if you are peaceful, when your mind is tranquil, you can actually feel the presence of Krishna. And that in the devotees, he is as Krishna. For the yogis, is Paramatma. But for the devotees, he is Krishna. So, I told you the pastime of Bilva Mangal Thakur, and I'll repeat it, that he was a blind person. And Krishna used to come and hear him because he used to chant very nicely. And he used to sing bhajans very nicely. And one day he could sense Krishna is in front of him. And what did he do? He grabbed the hand of Krishna. And who can grab Krishna? Krishna left him. And the first line that came out of his mouth is that, you can leave my hand and go away, but you can never leave my heart and go away. And Krishna had to come back. And Krishna was caught red-handed. Beautiful pastime. So this is the pastime you should remember. If you chant very nicely, if you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna will never leave you. He will always be there. And that is called samadhi. Samadhi means concentration. And one's mind, intelligence, senses right at the feet of Krishna. That is called samadhi. Hare Krishna. So time is 8:45. 45 minutes gone. If you have any questions, you can ask. I hope everyone is clear with these 3 words. Jnana, Vairagya, and Shruti. What is the word used? Shruta Grihitya. Okay. Any questions today? Anyone like to add something? If anyone likes to add anything. Bhagavatam means also sharing your knowledge, your realization. No questions today? How come? Everyone has become pandits.
Hare Krishna, kindly unmute and ask your questions. Prabhuji, I had a question, but I forgot as because I was writing down, but it will come to me. Usually
Yeah, you collect yourself. Meantime, someone else can ask. If people don't have a question, I can ask the question if you don't mind.
Yes, Prabhuji, kindly ask a
Oh,
question.
there's a hand raised up.
Panchali.
Panchali Kar. Can you ask your question, Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, apologies for the noise because I'm not stairs. So very quickly, you mentioned about not worshipping Krishna in the right way. Can you kindly expand on that a bit? So how do people, people going to a temple or
Okay, your line is not
restaurant?
very clearly. I could not hear your question nicely. What is your question?
It's okay, Prabhuji. I type in the chat box.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, she's typing her question because her line is not clear.
Oh, okay, okay.
Prabhuji, I missed when you said about the bhaktas. The bhaktas do 4 things very regularly. So they chant regularly, they read regularly, and have association of devotees. And what is the 4th thing, Prabhuji?
They worship.
Worship.
In fact, you can get this answer. It will appear, but in the 2nd canto, when Maharaj Parikshit is asking that, what should a man do if he knows he's going to die? Then Sukadeva Goswami says he has to do 4 things. Hear about Krishna, chant the holy name of Krishna, worship Krishna, and remember Krishna. So when you worship, when you do all these 4, you remember Krishna, whole of it, without fail.
Okay, Prabhuji, Sandhya has a question. Sandhya, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, and all devotees. I'm just going to share an experience, Prabhuji, and probably you could shed some light on it till Mataji is typing her question. Recently, we had a massive tragedy in our family, and that was about 3-4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. But since then, I mean, I was struggling to pray to Krishna.
What happened?
Oh, Prabhuji.
Someone passed away, or did you have an accident?
No, Prabhuji, my brother died. He was only 36, and he was going to get married on 22nd Feb, and he died on 5th. And when he died, I don't know. I mean, I've been doing Gita, and I used to, and that's when I started praying to Krishna for the first ever time in my life, 2 years ago when COVID started. But when my brother died, of course, I was numb with shock. I'm still not recovered, but I went through such severe anger that I started blaming everyone in the family. I just started, I don't know what went into me, as if a demon had taken over. I just started accusing everyone for no good reason. I don't know what went over me. It was awful. But then I said awful things to everybody. I was crying and it was awful. But then after that, I could not pray to Krishna. I stopped chanting. I started doing everything. I mean, I didn't keep Ekadashi. I just could not look towards Krishna. I mean, it is. And then today, when I was walking the dog, somehow I started talking to Krishna like I would when I would go and walk. But then suddenly my brother's thought came. And I said, but you have taken away my brother. You wiped him off. You could have done you must have had other, other solutions to whatever was there to take it away. So, so I'm struggling to talk to Krishna. And then I thought I'll at least, like, while hearing today's pravachan, I'm cleaning my temple as I'm hearing you. I'm doing it very mechanically because I think it's slightly become a habit now for the last 2 years. But I'm not thinking Krishna. I'm just doing it as a robot. Because when I would start thinking Krishna, I cannot think anything but my brother. I cannot. So bad.
Okay,
Then it also then reminds me that how bad my sanskar must have been, the way I was talking to my family and just blaming everyone for everything. Awful. For things which must have been 100 years ago, I was bringing, oh, it was bad. So I just think I must be a demoniac in my previous lives.
No, you're not demonic. Can I explain? Can I give you the answer to your question?
Yes, Prabhuji, it'll help me. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay. Now, if you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, or even if you hear Mahabharata, there is an incident that when the war got over on the 18th day, there was one Akshoni Sena, which means thousands of soldiers were still there. And the sons of the Draupadi, means 5 sons of Draupadi were alive. 5 Pandavas were alive. Only Duryodhana was alive on that side, and Ashwatthama and what do you call the Guru, Kripachari. Now Ashwatthama, he took a revenge that he went to at night when the soldiers were sleeping. He killed all of them. He killed the 5 sons of Draupadi, and he killed the brother of Draupadi. So imagine Draupadi lost how many? She lost her own brother, killed in cold blood. She lost all her 5 sons. Imagine the state any woman will be shaken up. Though she's a Kshatriya, she was completely shaken up. And in the morning, she was just weeping. Whole night she wept. I mean, this thing was realized in the morning. Because when they went to the camp, they saw dead bodies of so many soldiers, the 5 sons and our own brother. For brother, she didn't cry much because she knew he has come to avenge for the death of Dronacharya, because he was the son of Dronacharya. Acceptable. But why did he have to kill these 5 Pandavas? And she at once said that try to recognize whose weapons are this, which has killed this. And they realized that the weapons belongs to Ashwatthama, who is the son of single-handed person. He killed, massacred all these people in cold blood, which is against the Kshatriya rules and regulations. You're not allowed to kill anyone in cold at night, and especially you can't attack anyone who doesn't have any weapons in the hand. But he did it. So first thing, she was crying and also very angry also, just like you. And she told Arjuna, I want Ashwatthama's head, bring the head of Ashwatthama. When you bring the head of Ashwatthama, I'll stand on it. After that, I'll take bath, not before that. Imagine this is what she demanded. And Arjuna could understand the heart of her wife. And Krishna helped Arjuna to ride the chariot, same as you see on the cover of Bhagavad Gita. They went to search for Ashwatthama, they got him. He also released his Brahmastra. And Krishna says, this Brahmastra will destroy so many things. You use another Brahmastra and stop it. So by the permission of Arjuna, even before Brahmastra was released, Arjuna prayed to Krishna. You'll see those beautiful prayers appearing in the due course in the very first canto. After that, when Brahmastra was foiled, Ashwatthama was caught, tied up, brought in front of Draupadi. When Draupadi saw Ashwatthama tied up like an animal, she could not bear it. She said, release him. Just few hours ago, she was so angry. Now see the heart of a Vaishnava, of a pure devotee. She said, how can you tie him up? like an animal. He's the son of our Guru. From him, from whom you have learned all this, release him immediately. And Arjuna had to release him. And after that, there's a bit of discussion whether to kill him or not to kill him, which we'll read as the Bhagavatam goes further. Now, taking into account of Draupadi's heart, you'll find that these things happen in life. For how long will you cry? For how long will you become angry? Don't forget one thing. Cause of all causes is Krishna. And everything that is happening is done by Krishna. And for a devotee, it is meant to increase the faith of his devotee. There's one example, very famous in Nairobi, which has happened to me also. This is way back in the 90s. There's a family, I don't want to give their name, but you may be knowing them. His brother, after breakfast, was reversing his car, going out of the gate. And the robbers came, they shot him, threw him outside the car, they went away with the car. And the sister saw everything. And she lost faith completely in Krishna. And she didn't come to temple for 2 years, not few days, 2 full years. Even we tried to explain, but she was so angry. And she used the same words like yours. Why did Krishna do this to my brother? Because she had a lot of attachment for the brother. And the brother was elderly brother, elder than her. But now she's coming the way she was before, regularly. She comes regularly, she chants Hare Krishna. So this is my explanation, that these things happen. That is inevitable. And nobody knows the karma of that person who died. And nobody knows our karma also. Even we can die anytime. In the age of Kali Yuga, anyone can die at any time. There's no more Ram Rajya, remember that. In Ram Rajya, nobody will die untimely. It's called Akala Mrityu. Akala Mrityu means untimely death. It will never take place. Rather, people have to come to Lord Ramachandra and tell Ramachandra, I want to give up this body. And when Ramachandra said yes, then they will give up the body. That was the happiness at the time of Ramachandra. Now Ramachandra is not there. People don't want to believe in Ramachandra anymore now. They say, oh, he was a mythological figure, but he's the supreme personality of God. Don't forget that. Hare Krishna. Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. It just makes me feel that probably in anger I said things which I would normally not say. And probably I was just taken over by grief and...
No, that is natural, Mataji. When someone loses one's very dear person, it is natural. You're going to become angry. Even if I was in your place, same thing would have happened. Don't blame yourself, but make it easy. Here, Bhagavatam, there are many sections in Bhagavatam you should read, like the story of, Chitraketu. Read it nicely. Story of Chitraketu appears in 6th canto, which will actually explain how that takes place and what happens after that. If you hear those verses, you can overcome your grief. And read Bhagavad Gita, especially the 2nd chapter, verse number 11 onwards, up to verse number 30. You hear about the soul. And there are many other verses relevant to this. So the more you hear, the better it is for you. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
And read Ramayana. Do you have Ramayana with you?
No, Prabhuji.
Try to get a copy of Ramayana. Valmiki, not an ordinary Ramayana.
Okay.
It's called, there are different Ramayans. Go for the original Ramayana. Prabhupada recommends read Valmiki Ramayana.
Okay.
And if you want to strengthen your heart, in Ramayana, there's a section called Sundar Kand that will give you a lot of strength and you can overcome your grief. That is what I can advise.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I've remembered my question, but I'll ask Panchali Mataji's question. She had raised her hand first. her question is, can you kindly expand on a bit on worshipping Krishna in the wrong way by some people?
Wrong way means if you do not know scriptures nicely, at least what is in the, as Sri Prabhupada mentioned, the purport, Shruti, Shruti, Puranadi, that Krishna is supreme. There's nothing beyond Krishna. And that when you are worshipping, you worship as per the direction of the scripture. That is called proper worship. But there are people who just want to worship without understanding the supreme position of Krishna. Then that is not good. Proper worship means as per the instructions of Narada Muni. That is called proper worship of Krishna. That's why Sri Prabhupada says, worship does not mean that you skip your rounds. You still have to chant your rounds, still have to read Bhagavatam. You have to be very much Brahminical, clean, and in time. What makes a Brahmin or a Pujari? He comes in time, he finishes in time, and he's very clean. That is called a Brahmin. So this is the way you follow, and that is called worship of Krishna. Not only will you enjoy the worship, but you'll become better day by day by day. Is it okay, Pataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I know we have exhausted our time. Do you still have 5 minutes? I can ask my question, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this question arises from the karmis that we read today. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we know that when after the war, Yudhishthira Maharaj became despondent and he felt guilty about all the people that were dead. And then he became despondent. And at that time, Bhishma Pitama gave him some advice. So I would like to know that, Prabhuji, because I would like to help know that, because there is a karmic who doesn't believe in Krishna and Krishna consciousness and doesn't know. So I cannot justify philosophy to her, but I just need to know how Bhishma Pitama consoled Yudhishthira Maharaj. Maybe I can borrow a leaf. Or Prabhuji, if you can tell me how I can help this despondent soul.
Okay, Vishwapita's teachings is quite high. And you should also know that Vishwapita is one of the #1 devotees of Krishna. Now, if that lady does not believe in Krishna, it will be very difficult to console. So the best way to console that lady or to explain to this lady is to give the story of, it appears in the Bhagavatam, 7th canto, right in the beginning. The story of Suyagna. Just write the word Suyajna. Story of King Suyagna. This story is spoken, you will not believe, by Hiranyakashipu.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't think Hiranyakashipu was a fool. He was knowledgeable. And he directs this story to his mother, who was crying due to the loss of his brother or the loss of her son. So if you read this story verse by verse, it can console anyone. The story, in short, is like the king Suyagna dies, and he had 8 queens, and he died in the battlefield at a very young age. So the queens came and started crying, and they were not allowing the soldiers to take the body away, dead body away. They say, you can't take it. This is our husband. So the teaching which is given there can console anyone. At last they agrees the body to be taken away. And imagine who came to preach Yamaraj in the form of a young boy. Yamaraj is teaching that, why are you lamenting for someone who is already gone? And then he explains philosophy, that the spark in this body is not there anymore. Everything is going by the arrangement of Krishna. Then he gives a story of 2 birds, how one bird was lamenting and he was shot. He says, if you lament, you can also die. So in the end, indirectly, he even tells the queens, do you also want to die? And nobody wanted to die. In this way, the body was taken away for cremation. So this story is very nice. Suyagna, that is one. And the other one I mentioned in the class is the story of King Chitraketu. Very famous story. But there someone should be able to explain nicely how the king loses his son, how Narad Muni makes him wake up, and what the son speaks is the knowledge of soul and body. So as you hear, though she may not believe in Krishna, but when she understands this philosophy of the difference between body and soul, then it will console her heart. Very nice story. At least these are two popular stories.
Prabhuji, in which canto is it?
Sixth
Suryagna?
canto.
Both of them on
Suyagna, no, Suyagna is 7th canto, part 1, and the story of Chitraketu is 6th canto.
So Canto 1, Chapter 7, and Canto 1, Chapter 6.
No. Canto 7, Chapter 1. Chapter 7th canto, Chapter 1.
And
It appears
Chitraketu is in 6.
how Hiranyakashipu terrorized the universe, and then what happens. The story of Chitraketu appears in the 6th canto.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. We've overrun our time by 6 minutes, but it has been very helpful, and we have some homework to do this time. So thank you, Prabhuji. I will ask Madhurupa Mataji, is it possible for you to conclude the session, Mataji? Mataji?
Mataji, I can, but my internet is not very good today.
It's okay. We just have to do the Maha Mantra. Let's just.
Okay. So it was a very nice class by Rukma as usual, as it always is. And we would like to thank him so much for giving us this class and regularly coming to our group. So I would like everyone to unmute and glorify Sri Kumar Prabhu for his class and his association. Okay, so we will all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra for his glorification. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasindhubhyo Patitanam
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada
Ki Jai.
Jai. Shri Rukma Prabhu Jai.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. We could hear you very well. Thank you for ending the session.